Hello guys, welcome back to Super Guy Boy Show, and today we are back with a brand new YouTube series that I want to do right now. So I've been having this idea for a series I wanted to do on the channel, but didn't really know how to go through with it. But now I kind of figured it out. I want to do this series called Album Appreciation, where I'll make a video talking about an album that I really like or I think is very interesting to talk about that I don't see many people, really talking about that much or deserves its flowers to be talked about. And I think for the first installment of this series, I want to talk about Ol' Dirty Bastard's second album. I will not be saying the title at all through this video. If y'all want to joke about it in the comments, go ahead, go do your thing. So, the thing that really interests me about ODB as an artist was how very unique and different he was at the time and even now, because I can't even think of many artists that is even close how fucking weird Ol' Dirty Bastard was. The way how he would vocalize over beats, his off-key singing, his very, differences in how he would change his cadence on every single, verse and all that. ODB was just a very unique and weirdo type of rapper, and he didn't exactly fit with the traditional molds of a rapper in the 90s and all that. And I think that's what I really like about ODB, was how very experimental and how very left field he was as an artist. And I do think he was one of the first rappers in general to kind of like lay down some of the foundations that alternative hip hop would take later on, And the reason why I want to talk about this album instead of his debut, Return to the 36 Chambers, is because this one doesn't really get talked about that much. I don't hear many people really talking about this album that much, Even when people talk about ODB, Return to the 36 Chambers gets talked about way more than this album. And I do think that there is good reasons as to why. First off, I think Return to the 36 Chambers is a far more better, consistent album, in terms of like quality. I think from front to back, I think Return to the 36 Chambers is a bit more consistent with its song qualities and all that. And I think too, it's far more, I think, in terms of like the sound of it, it's far more comforting for more old heads, since it's that classic RZA Wu-Tang sound, unlike this one, which is a more, poppy commercial album than I say the debut was. And I do think that does contribute as to why most people think about Return to the 36 Chambers. And also, maybe the one song that gets talked about is Got Your Money, but on 36 Chambers, you have Shimmy Shimmy Ya, Brooklyn Zoo, Going Down, The Stomp, way more iconic songs than this one. So I think that does contribute it as to why most people think about his first one than his second album, which I do think is sad, because for me, I think this album is far more fucking weirder and unhinged than Return to the 36 Chambers. Just think about if you haven't even heard of this album and you have only heard Return to the 36 Chambers, just think of like all the weirdo, like strange moments from the first album, but this time on here times fucking 10. Like there is no way of explaining how weird this album is. You just kind of have to listen to it. And the thing about this is that it's such a unique album for the mainstream, I think. There's not many mainstream hip-hop albums that try to capture, the experimental industrial sounds that come close to what he was doing here. There's some ideas like that do come up, like Yeezus, which I don't really like Yeezus like that. And I think in terms of the experimentation, I think it was just more of just biting off other sounds that were just a bit more smaller than Kanye. The closest thing I could think of is maybe like T-Lop, The Life of Pablo. But the thing is that the thing that makes this album more experimental isn't exactly like, how other, rappers usually do it. How Injury Reserve, JPEG Mafia, or even stuff like Def Grips would do. It's like the overall sound and production. The thing about this is that this has a way more commercial sound. Songs like Got Your Money, Recognize, the Cold-Blooded cover on here, and even some of the songs like Good Morning Headache and all that shit. The thing is that those have like a really commercial, mainstream, pop-friendly sound to it. It's Ol' Dirty Bastard that sets it apart from all the other shit. And that is his delivery and the way he goes throughout it. It's like this album is like a clash of two worlds. You got the raw and rugged, dirty sounds of Old Dirty Bastard clashing together with the, more pop friendly, pop appealing, mainstream sounding production on here. And they're both clashing together, and it creates this weird, amalgamation of the sounds all over this album, because this album is so fucking weird for, how Old Dirty Bastard goes throughout this whole thing. Like one of my favorite tracks on here is Cold Blooded, the cover of the Rick James song. And the thing is that this beat is so like basic and pop and shit like that, but it's how ODB decides to do the cover. He decides to do it as annoying as possible. He does it like, who are you? He's like straining his voice to the point it sounds very nasally and very annoying and shit like that. I could see why most people would be like, man, what the fuck is this? But it's so weird that I actually unironically enjoy listening to it. Another one on here is it's the song Recognize, the intro track on here. You have, Chris Rock doing a very funny intro and all that. And then you have Old Dirty Bastard just fucking straining his vocals throughout the whole track and shit. It sounds really annoying. And what's so funny is that there's parts where like ODB comes in with his very annoying nasally voice, and then you have Pharrell Williams coming in a second after, and it's like, what the fuck? You have this really clean artist singing the hook, and you have Old Dirty Bastard over here just completely annoying you on here and shit. It's really funny to put it like that. It even happens that there's times where like he'll just be singing the hook, and he'll just keep going and going and going to the point where like his vocals are getting like to the point where they're straining and shit, or like popping the mic like I Can't Wait, or You Don't Want to Fuck With Me and shit like that. The song I Can't Wait has this crazy instrumental going throughout it. The sample just keeps, going and going and going, and then Old Dirty Bastard just kind of like speeding up his flow and all that, but the hook, he just keeps going and going and going to the point where like he starts straining his vocals, where he starts sounding very high pitched. It's very odd, it's very weird, and I unironically think it adds more to the raw level of that album, to that track specifically. Even if it's not a personal favorite of mine, I do appreciate for how very like raw it is. I really like that. And of course the track, Got Your Money is like the single of that track, which, I really love Got Your Money. And what I really like is, again, very poppy instrumental, very pop friendly hook. Hey, dirty, I got your money, don't you worry. But the thing is that ODB's verses are so weird. It's so like what is it? What is he said? I don't have a problem with you fucking me, but I do have a problem with you not fucking me. Like, it's just so funny. I really love it for that reason. I really love Got Your Money. That's definitely like one of my favorite tracks. And another one on here is, Fuck With Me. I really love that track because of, the very loud horn sampled beat on here. And then, you have Old Dirty Bastard again delivering the hook in such a crazy off the wall way. You don't want to fuck with me. Yeah. It's just so funny to me because it's like I feel like he's purposely making it like hard to listen to and shit like that. And it feels weird because I don't even think it's in an artistic way like how other like artists would go throughout it, because not many artists would try to do that. There usually should be a reason behind it, but I can't really look at like any artistic view of why Old Dirty Bastard would do this on the album. I just can't really think of like what goes through the mind of someone to come up with something so unique and very different, and to put it out in the world for people to listen to, and not really worried if people were like, man, this is fucking garbage and shit like that. Not that this album is garbage. I think this album is really good, but I'm just saying, in the more conventional sense, as an artist making it, like, what goes to your mind thinking that people are gonna love this? It's like this album takes a lot of risks. I think far more risks than his debut album, in my opinion. And another thing too is like there's some hard-hitting songs on here that do have the classic East Coast sound to it, like Rolling With You, which it's such a crazy fucking song. This might be the most like manic ODB song ever. You know, you have this intro where, you know, this little repeating little sample hint saying like, you can't imitate me on this fucking tape. You ain't ringing the bell. You ain't, hold on, I'm ready when you are. You know, it just keeps repeating and repeating. And then as the instrumental kind of builds up, you have him like completely ranting about white people taking over, you know, the culture and shit like that. And then you get like the beat drop, and then instantly he's just rapping completely manic throughout the whole song. And like there's a line in there that strikes me, and it's not even that well crafted of a line. It's like if someone has a problem has a problem until it's solved, until it's gone, or something like that. And it's such a like, it's such a like kind of badly crafted like line, but it kind of fits with how manic the whole song just kind of is like throughout. This song is so manic. There's even like, even the second verse is like kind of sporadic. Like he just keeps speeding and speeding throughout all these different fucking lines, like I control Thriller like Michael Jackson and shit like that. And then the chorus on here, it's like Jesus, I'm rolling with you. Jesus, I'm rolling with you. Jesus. And it's like, it's so catchy, but it's in with this whole like fester of just manic episode ODB mode. And I fucking love this song because of that. This might be my favorite song off the album. I do think that there is some low points on the album. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of I Can't Wait, but that's mostly because of, you know, it does get kind of annoying, but I do appreciate the track at the same time for how kind of weird it is at the same time, you know? This album in general is just so weird that I can't think of many mainstream hip-hop albums that come even close to how weird this album is. It's like, and I think it's because of how abrasive he truly was compared to other rappers. I think other rappers, when they try to be experimental, you can kind of tell that they're trying their best to be experimental, and sometimes it doesn't work. I think Yeezus is kind of in that bucket of like albums that try too hard to be experimental, but it doesn't come off as authentic. This album comes off as experimental because I don't think Old Dirty Bastard really came into this album wanting to make something experimental. I think that's just how he was as an artist. He just kind of did what he did, and that's what it came out as. I would even say that, like, in a way, you can kind of say that his music is like outsider art in a way, you know? And I do think that his style was influenced by the very, you know, in-your-face nature of New York rappers at the time and stuff like that. But Old Dirty Bastard had a way of rapping unlike any other rapper. You know, there was no fodder to his style, as you know, his name goes by and shit like that. And I think it does show all over this album. It's, you know, even if it isn't like the best out of the two, this album is still really good and definitely an experience to listen to, and I would highly recommend it. You know, if you're really into like alternative hip hop, or even just want to try it, just the novelty of it, I say check it out. It's a really good album. You know, I will say though, I do think that Return to 36 Chambers is far more consistent of an album. It's definitely like has the way more stronger tracks, definitely the way more iconic ones. But I do think this album is far more unhinged, abrasive, and definitely a way more crazier experience. And that's what I really like about this album. I want more people talking about this album as much as Return to 36 Chambers, because I don't really see people really talking about it. If Return to 36 Chambers kind of was like the album the kind of like set the standards of alternative hip-hop and stuff like that, of like breaking the mold, not exactly following the standards at the time, then I would say this album is kind of like, you know, the continuation of that, but far more crazier and, you know, out there. And yeah, I think this album is really good. I would like if y'all check it out, and if y'all have checked it out or listened to it, what's y'all thoughts on it? How do y'all feel like in retrospect it is and all that? And yeah, that'll be the first installment of this video. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. I am working on a JoJo video, for those who are wondering. Yes, it's going to be Iraqi related, and it will be coming out soon, I promise. But yeah, hopefully you had a great time with this video. Hopefully y'all got something new out of it. And yeah, start a discussion and have a great day. Yeah, see ya.